You're standing in front of a buffet. A real celebration spread. Beautiful dishes, desserts that are practically winking at you. You want to try everything. But a little voice reminds you that you're on a diet, or that you should set an example. So, what do? Do you give in with an excellent excuse? Do you resist heroically by trashing the temptation? Or do you negotiate like an expert in psychological economics? That simple gesture says more about you than you think. Welcome to the anatomy of choice. Today, we're breaking down the secret battle between duty and pleasure. And let me tell you right now, this isn't about willpower. It's about personality. Every choice we make is an unconscious calculation. Your brain is constantly running a cost-benefit analysis, and we naturally gravitate toward options that cost us the least mental energy. This is the law of psychological economy. The easier, more comfortable, and more enjoyable a choice feels, the more it leans toward pleasure. The more mental effort or sacrifice it demands, the more it falls into duty. Where you land on that spectrum? That is your psychological fingerprint. So let's get personal. Do you stick to the speed limit on an empty road, late at night, when no one is watching? Do you force yourself to exercise when you're exhausted, just because you said you would? Do you keep promises even when they're inconvenient, expensive, or just plain annoying? These aren't trivial questions. They're the diagnostic tools that reveal where you actually stand, not where you think you stand. These moments are the mirror of your true character. Let's start with the first archetype, the rebel. This is the 0 to 25% duty zone. The vibe? Self-interest first. You avoid arbitrary rules unless you're genuinely afraid of getting caught. Your strengths? You're highly vigilant, fiercely self-protective, and completely immune to hypocrisy. You never make promises you can't keep. Your weaknesses? You distrust spontaneous virtue in others and can be perceived as cynical. But here's the thing, you aren't wrong about everyone having an angle. You're just more honest about it. Next up, the pragmatist. 26 to 50% duty. The vibe? Comfort above all. You need solid, tangible proof that being virtuous will actually benefit you in the real world. Your strengths? You're grounded in reality, fiercely objective, and totally immune to guilt trips. No one can shame you into doing something that doesn't make sense. Your weakness? You're hard to motivate for long-term, abstract ideals. You might appear cold, but you aren't, you just refuse to pretend. Third archetype, the strategist. 51 to 75% duty. The vibe? The master of balance. You organize and dose your pleasures. You negotiate with your desires and turn constraints into playful opportunities. Your strengths? You find joy in discipline and can make a chore feel like a game. Your weakness? You can appear opportunistic, and people might say you only play for yourself. But honestly, you've figured out what most people never do, duty doesn't have to be miserable. Finally, the idealist. 76 to 100% duty. The vibe? Absolute moral rigor. You love doing your duty, and you judge low earthly pleasures harshly. You feel a deep need to be a model for others. Your strengths? Total protection against intemperance. You never cut corners or compromise your values. Your weakness? You're trapped by an impossible zero-defect standard. You can come across as judgmental and secretly envy people who can let loose, though you'd never admit it. Let's map these archetypes. Our behavior exists on a spectrum defined by how much we value our own comfort versus societal expectations. On one end, low internal guilt, the rebel and the pragmatist. They feel little shame when they prioritize themselves. On the other end, high internal guilt, the strategist and the idealist. They wrestle with themselves before every indulgence. Knowing where you fall stops you from judging yourself for being who you are. But here's where it gets tricky: behavior is only half the equation. The true test of your psychological economy isn't what you do when you have a choice, it's why you obey rules you actively dislike. Do you pay bills because you're afraid of late fees? Because it's logically smarter? Or because it's the right thing to do? Same action, completely different engines. The visible iceberg is the same, but what's underneath? That's the real story. Let's look at the first hidden driver: social sanction. You obey because you're afraid of getting caught, of the fine, or of the judgment. Your internal question isn't, "Is this right?" but, "Will anyone find out?" The mechanism is fear of punishment. The benefit? You avoid conflict and stay out of trouble. The trap? You're only as good as your surveillance. When no one's watching, all bets are off, and that inconsistency creates a nagging unease. Second hidden driver: calculated prudence. You obey because you've coldly calculated the long-term risks to your health, finances, or property. You don't smoke not because it's wrong, but because you don't want cancer. You save money not because you're virtuous, but because you don't want to be broke. The benefit? Excellent self-preservation. The trap? Constant risk assessment can make your life rigid and restrictive, turning even minor indulgences into sources of disproportionate guilt. Third hidden driver: moral principles. You obey because you believe it's the right thing to do. Period. Your internal compass is set. The benefit? Absolute consistency. You keep promises even when they cost you. The trap? You can become intolerant of anyone who doesn't share your principles. When reality conflicts with your morals, the stress is enormous. For you, disobedience isn't just an action, it's a betrayal of who you are. This is where it all comes together. Your psychological fingerprint is the combination of your behavioral archetype and your core driver. The rebel driven by fear. The pragmatist driven by logic. The strategist driven by a mix of principle and pleasure. The idealist driven by unshakable moral conviction. Until you know both your archetype and your driver, you're navigating your life blind. So how do we escape the trap? The zero-defect ideal. The guilt over every cookie. The feeling of being a hypocrite. The answer is alignment. True self-awareness isn't about becoming more disciplined, it's about aligning the mental cost of your choices with your actual values. It's about choosing to enjoy pleasure without crushing guilt, and to fulfill duties without burning resentment. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be lucid. The next time you face an obligation you dread or a temptation you crave, pause. Ask yourself, am I acting out of fear, logic, or principle? Understanding your default setting isn't about changing who you are, it's about mastering the engine that's been running you all along. So, what's your fingerprint? Rebel, pragmatist, strategist, or idealist? And what's driving you? Fear, logic, or principle? Drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.